Alright YouTube, so we have some more Final Fantasy VII news. Man, we've been able to pump out a couple videos the past week or two. This time it's a rumor, at least at this point it is a rumor, that apparently Square Enix kind of had to start from the ground up, start over from scratch after they took over from CyberConnect 2. Really quickly before we get into it, we are on the road to 8,000 subscribers, hoping that we can hit that sometime in May, so if you guys are new, please subscribe. The past few Final Fantasy VII Remake videos that we've made have been kind of negative, and while this one is still just a rumor, at least at this point it is, if it does become true, if we find out that it is true, it means that they're further behind than we thought they were. And if Square Enix really had to redo everything that CyberConnect 2 did, that means that both of the trailers we've had so far may not actually be what the game's going to look like. Those could no longer be canon, if you want to call it that or whatever. Around this time last year, like May 20-something of 2017, is whenever they moved the development to in-house and dropped CyberConnect 2. And the game was supposedly in development for years up until that point. If they had to start over from the beginning and scrap everything CyberConnect 2 did, that means we are years out before we ever see this game. Ever since its initial announcement 3 years ago, fans have been revved up for Square Enix's Final Fantasy VII Remake, along with the idea of playing their favorite heroes again in a whole new light. But some new details indicate that the game isn't nearly as far into development as some may suggest. Part of that comes from the news regarding Square Enix abandoning the work that was done by its development partner and starting over from scratch. A while back, the company partnered with CyberConnect 2 to handle the action gameplay as well as work on some video quality issues. But reports indicate that this past year, it dumped all its progress and is building everything back up again, setting the game back further than expected. So maybe it's not entirely as bad as it seemed. CyberConnect 2 was only handling the action gameplay and whatever the hell the video quality issues means, so they didn't have to start the game all the way over, but that means like the combat, the action gameplay may end up being different. I doubt that they would change it that much. It's still going to be an action type game, Kingdom Hearts-esque, Final Fantasy 15-esque type of gameplay or whatever. They're not going to go back to turn-based like everybody's wanting them to, or at least a lot of the community's wanting them to. It's still going to be an action game. I just don't know if it's going to be exactly what we've seen from the two trailers. But hold on, because it sounds like things might be worse than that. In a recent Reddit thread, Dan Tsukasa, a game designer who served as Final Fantasy VII's art director, had plenty to say about the project, and it sounds like it's on the brink of chaos. He noted that while Square Enix originally said it put 4 years worth of effort into the remake, there was actually only 2. Also, the company started it again because CyberConnect's work was just so useless and not far enough along. He also noted that the company deemed CyberConnect's 2 content unusable. So apparently, at least according to this Reddit post, according to Square Enix, CyberConnect 2's content was so bad it was unusable. They literally had to start over, according to this quote. I don't know shit about CyberConnect 2. I've never even heard of them until I heard that they were attached to this project. But how are you working on such an important project, such an important game like Final Fantasy VII Remake, and you are making shit content? Like, how are you not putting everything you have into this content? Like, this is probably the most important thing CyberConnect 2 would have ever done. I don't even know what they have done in the past, but I've never heard of them. When has a company taking work away from another company ever been a positive sign of things? I know CyberConnect's work was unusable. I've worked with them before. I know their level, he said. And I know they outsourced to hell and back in order to get things to the point we saw them publicly, and it still wasn't enough to save them. So according to Dan Tsukasa here, they had to outsource just to get to the level that we've seen content from Final Fantasy VII Remake. Some of the screenshots in both trailers, they had to outsource and get outside help themselves just to get to that point, which means they were clearly far behind. He then added, I'm not speculating though, I've worked with these people and know people working still at both Square and CyberConnect 2. I'm explaining what happened from what I know. He then was asked if he knew anyone working on the development team at the time. Yep, it's the game industry in Tokyo. Square is so large, it's rare to meet someone who doesn't know anyone there. So what he's saying here is if everything that he's been saying so far is actually true, it wasn't him speculating on what might have happened. It was him saying, this is actually what happened. This is what I know. This is what I've heard. This is what I've learned. You know, if this does come out to be true at some point, I don't know if Square would ever admit to this or, like, you know, tell us that this is exactly what's going on. Maybe we'll hear something sometime soon. I don't know. I kind of doubt it. But this is nothing new for Square. They announced games so far ahead of time. Final Fantasy 15 was in development for, what, like 10 years? It was going to be a completely different game originally from what it is now. Like, it's just kind of crazy how Square does things. There's nothing inherently wrong with building hype early. When they showed us the initial reveal trailer at E3 2015, that would have been fine if we stuck with that for a while. But to show us a gameplay trailer at the end of that year at PlayStation Experience, that's where the hype got a little too real, because we're already having gameplay footage. It seems like the game's further along, and then here we are, 2018, still talking about this game, and have zero information, essentially. I'm unsure how to prove it, though. I can't get into any issues by saying what I've heard or what's common knowledge in the industry here. The common knowledge being that the project was taken from CyberConnect 2 because it was so behind schedule. But if I were to name anyone working there, they'd get into trouble for sharing information the same way I'd get into trouble if I shared information about where I work. So with that said, I can only prove I worked in the game industry in Japan, can't prove who I do and don't know. Since that time, Tsukasa has apparently deleted his social media accounts as well as his profile over at ArtStation, so we're not sure what to make about any of this. Square Enix hasn't said a word about the project in some time, so at this point, your guess is as good as ours. Could we be seeing an update at E3, or will the publisher delay the project further? We'll find out in just a few short weeks. So this last couple of paragraphs is where it kind of steps into the rumor territory. Obviously, nothing is confirmed. Everything's a rumor, really, until Square Enix themselves confirm it. This guy, Dan Tsukasa, who was the art designer, art director, whatever, on the original Final Fantasy VII, claims that he has information, but then he goes on to say how he has no real way to prove it. He can't name any names, or they'll get in trouble, and he'll probably get in trouble, things like that. Even though we know that it's supposed to be him, it's supposed to be the actual Dan Tsukasa. And then after all of this, all the social media accounts were apparently deleted, and whatever his ArtStation account, whatever the ArtStation is, that account was deleted as well. But if this Reddit account or Reddit post was actually him, if his social media accounts that were deleted were his actual official social media accounts, and whatever the ArtStation thing is, if that's his actual official ArtStation account, if all those were deleted and they were actually his, that kind of adds some credibility to the things that he's saying, because why would he just go off the grid like that? Because if, say, this was some imposter or somebody pretending to be him, why would his official accounts get deleted right after this happens? If all the things talked about in this Reddit post were untrue, there'd be no reason for all of his accounts to be deleted right afterwards. It's hard to know if this information is true. It sounds like it's true. Usually whenever a game gets announced, with most companies, besides Square Enix, with most companies when a game gets announced, you get information as the time goes on. There might be some space and gaps in between there, weeks, months, whatever, but you get trailers and things here and there. And we've got almost nothing for 3 years with Final Fantasy VII Remake, and it would kind of make sense if Square Enix had to start over in a lot of areas. I've said this in just about every Final Fantasy VII Remake video. I'm still very much on the hype train. I'm still very much looking forward to this game. I've just accepted the fact in the recent months that we probably are going to see this game for a very long time, and that kind of sucks. Anyways, let me know your thoughts below, guys, as usual. Do you think that Square Enix did have to start over? Do you think CyberConnect 2 actually fucked up? Do you think we'll hear anything at E3 this year? Something. Pictures, trailers, information, something. And hopefully you guys, girls, and transgenders went on to enjoy the video. And if you did, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. Turn on notifications. Follow me on Twitter at @TheDashingDavid. Links to my social networks are in the description and in the outro. Later, guys.
Give me forever for a while, give me forever for a while. Quit acting like a baby.